about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
What is good, everybody? The wait is over, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Dome Field Advantage podcast, presented exclusively right here for the Bloodline Entertainment Network. I am your host, Dylan Hebert, and if you know me in the Bloodline community, then you also know me as the Silent Assassin. But since I'm right here by myself, then I will not live up to that Bloodline name that I've been given by our tribal chief of podcasting, Devin. But nonetheless, I have a great show lined up for everybody. But before I even get into any of that, first of all, I want to thank a lot of people who gave me the courage to even start this. For people who maybe knew me before podcasting, which is not a lot of people in the community itself, noted I was not really a big talker. I wasn't the one that was the most outgoing person ever. So the fact that I'm doing this, I feel like takes a lot of courage, takes a lot just to do it. So for everyone in the Bloodline community, for people who I've ever done a podcast with, who I still do a podcast with to this day, and for everyone at the Bloodline Entertainment Network, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this is such a great feeling that I even get to do something like this. So to Devin, to Tim, to Nick, to Dom, to JD, to everybody over there at the Bloodline Entertainment Network, Bakley, and all the great people over there, so many more people to name, but just thank you to everyone who has supported me along the way, and this is such a fantastic feeling. Real quick before I get into any of the topics I have lined up, with the chat is already blowing up, I see. Let's dive into some of these real quick. Gotta scroll up quite a bit. Let's see, we got Courtney. Thank you so much for tuning in, Courtney. We got Justin. So just very ecstatic to be here. This is the one I was waiting for. My dude, Tim King, the banger after banger. Just so excited to be here. Got Bakley in the comments. Let's see who else we got going on. And the chat is blowing up like crazy. Of course, we got our man Graydon, the movie guy. We got Jordan also in the comments. We got Nick from the Universal Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, man. Man, the chat is growing, and even my mom's tuning in. That's how you know this feels good. Even my mom's tuning into this, so this feels really good. Of course, we got our tribal chief of podcasting right here, Devin, for tuning in. Thank you so much, man. We got Kayla. Also, man, the chat is going to continue blowing up. So if I miss your message, I will go back up and try to catch it at some point. This is the first show I do for the network, so I'm not used to the chat blowing up this much, so I will get to you if I do miss you at some point. But getting into today's show, just a lot to dive into, and normally I'm gonna have a backstage producer. I'm gonna have Jordan, who's on my other wrestling show with me, to sit backstage and kind of handle the comments, handle some of my overlays I have for the show. But unfortunately, if you missed a live stream that I was a part of last week, he is dealing with some medical issues. So until he's able to come back, then I will be the one manning all the live streams, the comments, overlays, and whatnot. But today's show is very simple, so I feel like I can handle this one for my own. But getting into today's show, I wanted to use this show mainly as a way for you to get to know me. And while I'm talking about this, I would like for the people maybe in the comments to talk about maybe the team that they're a fan of, maybe how they got into this team. If you ever been to a game, share this experience with me while I'm sharing my experience with you. So yes, the first topic is a chance to get to know me. So real quick, the way I got into the Saints and into the NFL is pretty much how anybody gets into anything on television. And it's mainly if you're flipping around the channels, if someone shows you something on TV and you automatically get hooked automatically. And for me, it was the second one that I was lucky to have happen to me. And it's kind of a long story that I'll kind of shorten up into something that's suitable for this show. And it was my father that got me into it. My father, unfortunately, no longer here with us, and he got me into the Saints. Let's see, I would say maybe around 2002, 2003. He worked at it. He really worked at getting me into the Saints, and something that I didn't take a big interest into at first, but he constantly worked at it. For me, being a kid, I was more like into the cartoons. I was into wanting to do my own thing in my room. I wanted to go outside and play basketball. I wasn't into watching the Saints, or the NFL in general. But one day, I guess maybe the weather was bad. I couldn't go outside. He wanted to spend some time with me. So, luckily, knowing what I know now, luckily, I was able to spend that time with him. So, I was watching a game with him. I'd be lying if I told you what game it was, but more than likely, the Saints were losing. The Saints were in that Jim Haslett and Aaron Brooks days, and there wasn't a ton of winning for that team around that time. So, I forgot what game it was. I wish I can go back and remember what game it was, but Sutton just got me hooked. Something caught my attention, and I just loved it. Ever since I started watching it, and I remember my brother, my mom, and my dad went to a game. For some reason, I don't know why I didn't go to this game. It was against the Cleveland Browns at the Superdome. It was a 12 o'clock kickoff for us over here, and I went to stay with my grandma. Well, they came back. The Saints lost the game, and something, that I guess they were used to the Saints losing. It's like they weren't even mad that they lost because they're so used to it already. But then I would say maybe a year later, the Saints were playing the Falcons. I think the day or the second day after Christmas, and my dad surprised us with more tickets. And this time, it was my turn to go. So if you ever been to a Saints game at the Superdome, you know that you have to leave at a decent time, because if you get there and it's almost time for kickoff, maybe even an hour, hour and a half before kickoff, then the traffic is going to be crazy. And we learned that the hard way. And I remember we got there and we were battling crazy traffic to even get there. So we're listening to the beginning of the game on the radio. That's how bad we were in traffic. We were missing some of the game. And we didn't get there until probably the beginning of the second quarter. But luckily for us, the Saints won. It was my first ever live NFL experience. And if watching it on TV didn't get me hooked, then being over there inside the Superdome, I believe one of the NFL's greatest environments, was the one that got me hooked. So, I mean, right there, that's my journey of getting into the Saints. Was I was going to a game, with my father getting me into the Saints. And right after that, the rest is history. My dad suddenly had this great idea to get season tickets. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the Saints were not good. The Saints were in the Aaron Brooks days, who was just throwing interception after interception. Jim Haslett was the head coach, not the greatest head coach ever. And we learned this even after his departure from the Saints. But we got season tickets and we kept them for roughly 16 years. I believe we let go of them the year after COVID. Well, I mean, COVID's still going on, but the COVID year that really, was really impactful, which is 2020. We let go of them after that year. And it wasn't that we wanted to let go of them. It's, my mom has health issues. It's just a to and from drive, 3 hours to and from. This is pretty crazy. And then, just the money, it's expensive to go to games now, and they would raise the ticket prices every year. But stuff that we were able to see in that little bit of time of going to Saints games was unbelievable. We saw the Saints get kicked to go to the Super Bowl. We saw the Saints get screwed out of going to a Super Bowl. I will die on that hill that the Saints should have went that year versus the Rams. I have met so many former Saints players. I have met Steve Gleason, who's unfortunately battling ALS right now. I have met Will Smith, who was sadly taken from this world too soon. I have met Joe Horn. I have met, Michael Lewis. I was even able to meet Tom Benson and his wife. I was able to meet just a crazy amount of former Saints players, and it's all because of the Saints Hall of Fame museum they have located inside a Superdome. So if you're a fan of a team that's playing the Saints and you do come into New Orleans, even if you're not a fan of the Saints, I do advise you to go and visit this museum, because it's just awesome. So much part of history is inside of that museum. So if you ever get a chance to go to New Orleans and go to the Superdome, just take a few minutes to go check out that museum, and for sure you'll be able to get a chance to meet a former Saints player. So it's awesome. So we were able to see a lot of cool things happen inside of the Superdome. Like I mentioned, the kick to go to the Super Bowl. We saw multiple records being broken by Drew Brees. We were able to see just a crazy amount of things. So in the midst of all that, we all started. It was me, my brother, my mom, and my dad. My father passed away in 2008, which is crazy because my dad was such a big Saints fan. He was eat, sleep, breathe the New Orleans Saints. And, if the Saints would lose, he is like I am now. It would just ruin his whole day. And that's how I am now. If the Saints lose like a certain game, I don't want to talk to nobody. And that's gonna be it's gonna be crazy whenever I start doing these shows twice a week. Because on Mondays I'm gonna be doing a recap show. So hopefully the Saints start winning a lot because I will feel sad inside if I ever get on here and I start doing a show if they lose because I'll just be upset the whole time I'm talking. So hopefully we get some winning ways this year with this new team that we got. But yeah, my dad was a huge Saints fan, and he passed away in 2008, and the Saints won the Super Bowl the 2009 year. So he waited all that time for a Super Bowl, and he passed away the year before they won. So it's just a crazy timing. I find that all of this happened. But whenever he passed away, it was myself, my brother, my mom, and my uncle who lives in Illinois now. And then after that, we started bringing my cousin, Jordan, who's on the wrestling show with me. Then my wife came to a few games, and that just led to whenever we finally decided to make that hard decision to give him up. So it sucks, it really sucks that we gave him up, but it was a hell of an experience. So it's not like I felt bad giving them up, but it's just like it was such a big part of your life for so much of your life. Because I started going when I was a child, and we gave him up just the year I got married. So it's just crazy. So some more comments coming in. Want to hop into that before we get to our next topic. Of course, we got some big Chicago Bear fans here. Graydon, of course. Devin's a big Bears fan. I know Tim up there is a big Bears fan as well. Of course, we get the Bear down. Bears have came to the Superdome a few times. Luckily, we were able to beat that ass a few times, so feels pretty good, that we were able to give them some losses as well. I know Kayla here is a big Carolina Panthers fan, big rival of the New Orleans Saints. Interested to see though how Bryce Young and that new look team is going to look this season. I know they got Adam Thielen over there, Miles Sanders, formerly of the Eagles over there. So, of course, looking forward to that. And of course, we got some Eagle fans in here as well. That seems to be the primary teams of the Bloodline Network is the Bears and the Eagles. I know we trash talk a lot during the season, so looking forward to seeing how this season pans out for everybody. I'm hoping for the Saints it pans out pretty well. So let's get into another topic that I want to discuss. And even though I'll move topics, if you haven't commented about your team, how you got into them, feel free to always comment. I will pop that up. I will acknowledge that as well. But I want to get into some big news that came out this past Friday, and that is Alvin Kamara suspension. And we knew it was coming. The incident that happened in Las Vegas, we knew a suspension was coming. Luckily, he was able to avoid any sort of jail time. I forgot what he pleaded, but I know that he was going to get a lesser fine and a lesser suspension if he did plead that way. So he was suspended for the first 3 games of the NFL season, and he is missing the Tennessee Titans game, the Carolina Panthers, and the Green Bay Packers. And I see that as a big win for the Saints if he's out for 3 games. And I say that because look at the depth that the Saints have in that backfield right now, even without Alvin Kamara. You're bringing in the NFL's touchdown leader from last year, which is Jamal Williams, formerly of the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. But if you look at his stats from past seasons, go back to last year, he got just a little bit over 1,000 yards, and he had an NFL leading 17 touchdowns, which is unbelievable. And honestly, you can say that he was vulturing touchdowns, but look at the yardage to back that up. So I think he will be a very, very reliable back going forward, even with Kamara back with the team when he does serve that 3-game suspension. Of course, you have Kendre Miller from TCU, who the Saints took in the draft. And then, of course, some news that was delivered to me today, and I kind of dug more into it, that the Saints are getting another visit formerly of the Cleveland Browns. Looking forward to that one as well. Hopefully he can bring that in, Kareem Hunt, and then Kareem Hunt and Anthony Barr, I believe, visited the Saints today. So it'll be very nice to see if they do bring both of them in. I know the linebacking position, something the Saints can address a little bit with Demario Davis and Pete Warner, mainly are the main guys there. So it'd be nice to bring in Anthony Barr. I know he didn't have a great stint in Dallas, but I know he was such a great one in Minnesota. So it'd be nice to bring him in. Kareem Hunt, I feel like, would serve as a good backup as well, but I'm just hoping the Saints are not going to be, like, I guess, say, flooding the backfield, because, Kamara is only serving a 3-game suspension. It's not like he's going to be out for a while. I know Kendre Miller is excited to come into the Saints backfield. He's even saying he wants to go for that starting spot, which is great confidence from a rookie, saying you already want to go for that starting spot, knowing there's a guy like Alvin Kamara there. There's a guy like, Jamal Williams there, and even possibly Kareem Hunt going into the mix. So a lot of confidence from Kendre Miller, which is something that I like coming from a running back. Awesome. So Kareem Hunt coming in, I'm not sure if they'll sign him, but if they do, very interested to see where he goes at from here. And then, of course, Jamal Williams, like I mentioned, this guy, if you don't look at the off the field attitude this guy has, which I love, he is such a great personality off the field. I've seen some videos from training camp, the interactions he's having with the crowd. They're even bringing him, like, Pokemon and anime stuff to sign, which is an awesome interaction between the fans and himself, But looking at his stats from the Green Bay Packers compared to Detroit Lions, it seemed like the Lions kind of avoided the passing game with Jamal Williams. So I'm very curious to see how Derek Carr and Dennis Allen is going to incorporate him, if they're going to bring back the receiving side of him, or if they're going to stick to the running. I know Alvin Kamara is a big receiving back. I know he rushes a lot, but he's like that dual threat when it comes to being a running back. He can catch it, he can run, and he's just explosive either way. In Green Bay, he got like upwards of 200-300 yards receiving per year, and then he goes to Detroit, and I don't even think he gets 100 per year in the 2 years he was there. Very interested to see where they go at with Jamal Williams, and if they stick to the running, if they let him do some receiving as well. Like I said, I'm excited to see where this team goes. This is such a new look team, kind of newer than what I've been seeing from the Saints team. So I was one that was on the fire Dennis Allen train last year, even after his first year. But seeing how this team has just improved on paper is absolutely fantastic. So Alvin Kamara's suspension is, it sucks, losing your top guy, but it would just be nice to see how this team just improves after such like a downward year. And for Dennis Allen's first year, I wouldn't necessarily call it like a big down year, but it wasn't what I expected. But now that the NFC South is not looking fantastic, Tom Brady's out of division. Carolina is a young team. I'm not sure where they'll go, but I know the Saints do struggle with young quarterbacks. So it'd be very interesting to see how that game goes with them early in the season. And then, of course, the Falcons. Well, they're the Falcons, so I'm not expecting much from them. But this is just trash talk coming from me. They could be a good team. I don't know. It would just be interesting to see. Of course, bringing up some old memories of 2006. Don't feel like talking about that too much. And yeah, the last couple of times the Saints and Bears have played, Saints have been on the better end of that. So hopefully we continue that. Saints Bears play this year, so may have a few Bears joining me for for that week, of course. So looking forward to that. Of course, is awesome to do that. It's awesome to share all this stuff with all of you. I did tell y'all that I was gonna be, telling y'all some stories about, like, my family, about how my father passed away during, like, right at the beginning of the Saints season. He passed away, so it was unfortunate that he missed a Super Bowl and all that. But I know he played a big part up there for the Saints to do something great against the Colts that night. 31-17, the onside kick, the pick six from Tracy Porter, and even go into the game before that, the Brett Favre interception when he clearly could have ran it. And Vikings fans are still crying to this day, saying, "Oh, the bounty scandal and all that." I don't want to hear that, because I think the Vikings turned it over like 5 times, and that's not our fault. It happens. Whatever. It's all good. But yeah, yeah, it sucks. Also, Benjamin got hurt. I think he ruptured his Achilles. So yeah, he was one that I was excited to see, for that Saints offense, but Saints unfortunately suffering a few injuries. I know they said Rashid Shaheed also, who was a very explosive player for us last year. He also suffered an injury and he may be out a couple of weeks. Hopefully he's back in time for week 1, and hopefully it's not an injury that's lingering. So it'd be interesting to see. Steeler fans. Yeah, the Steeler fans are they're okay. I've seen the Steelers come into the Superdome a few times. They're known for, of course, for their terrible towels. And a good friend of mine is a Steeler fan as well. Him and his father came to the game against the Saints. I forgot what year, but it was on Halloween night. And man, the Halloween in New Orleans, that just screams like just screams chaos right there. So it was a fun night. Saints got the victory that night, but the Steelers were playing solid football. So it was a back and forth game. And so before I even move on with the third and final topic of the show today, just some of the cool games I've been to. I mentioned the NFC title game against the Vikings. Man, I've been to some crazy games. If anyone remembers the Saints and the Giants game that ended like 52-49, when I think Eli threw like 6 touchdowns or something like that, and I think Drew threw like 6 or 7, and they had to rely on a game-winning field goal to move on past the Giants. I was at that game as well. I've been to some crazy games. I've been to a lot of Sunday night games. I've been to Monday night games. Pretty much any time of the day that the Saints have been in the dome, and whatever time I've been there. So if you are interested in ever going to New Orleans, I would recommend you go to a night game, because that's when the environment is so much better. I feel like that kind of resembles if you're into college and you go to Tiger Stadium for LSU. Going during the day is nice, but at night, that's when it's fun to go. So I do recommend, if you're ever thinking about coming to New Orleans for a Saints game, whether they're playing your favorite team, whether just randomly you're in the area, I feel like, a night game is your best time to go. What's good, JD? Thank you for tuning in to the show. Very, very excited to have you here. Of course, got one of my biggest supporters, big Saints fans, my mom, also commenting about the Saints as well. Yeah, so yeah, I would recommend you go to a night game. That's the best time to go. It just gives you a time to like interact with more Saints fans. It gives you a time to walk around the city. Some places I wouldn't recommend you go. People talk about going to Bourbon a lot. I wouldn't. But for a first time, yeah, go check it out. But after that first time, you may not want to go back, because it's not all that it's all made out to be. It's made out to be like the attractions over there, the street performers, and of course the alcohol, which I've known to get in a few times over there. But aside from that, it's not that great. The smell is pretty rough. If people talk about the smell of Bourbon Street, they're not lying to you. So I would recommend that you wouldn't go over there at all. But yeah, check it out if you ever go to New Orleans. I know I got a lot of people in the bloodline that's from the northern parts of the country. So I'm not sure if y'all ever been already or whatever, but I do recommend it. So So getting into the last and final topic of tonight's show, let's do let's do a week one preseason preview. Now I put some of the players on the screen that I'm looking forward to seeing some action from, but I made this overlay before today. So Dennis Allen did say that he's expecting to see the starters play in the first preseason game, something that you're not really used to seeing from the Saints. The Saints normally hold out their starters until the last preseason game, and normally they only play maybe a series. So whenever Drew Brees was there, he wouldn't play like pretty much at all. He played like maybe one series of the last game. But now you're expecting to see some starters. I'm hoping that Dennis Allen's maybe just bluffing, but it doesn't seem like it. So on here, Jameis Winston, they got Jake Haener, got Foster Moreau, and Kendre Miller. I'm looking forward to seeing all of these guys, but if you're going to play some starters, then I'm looking forward to see maybe just maybe a series or two. I want to do all of this to avoid any injuries. So yeah, let's avoid injuries. I have done fantasy football drafts before preseason and during preseason, and one of my top picks toward their ACL. So I'm really hoping that we don't go overboard and give someone too much of a load management for the preseason game. I don't want to see Michael Thomas out there. He's already dealt with injury after injury. People know this. I don't want to see much of Jamal Williams out there, being that he's going to be serving as the starter while Kamara is out. And I want to focus more on the rookies. I want to focus more on like a Jake Haener. I want to focus on more of a Kendre Miller. And even it would be nice to see Foster Moreau get out there. He had failed his physical for the first time with the Saints, but luckily he was able to come back because of his battle with, I think, Hodgkin's lymphoma, what he dealt with. So hopefully he is ready to go. He's already signed. He's been doing great work in a training camp. So it'd be nice to see if he does actually play during the preseason. Some other guys I'm looking at, if we do play our starters, Marshawn Lattimore, our top corner, has been having a fantastic training camp, I've been hearing. Be nice to see if he actually does something. I know Bradley Roby has been one that people have been highlighting as well. So I am truly hoping that he actually has a good year. The corner spot is something that I wouldn't necessarily say we struggle with, but aside from Lattimore, Paulson Adebo had a rough second year, so he is poised for a great third year, I'm hoping. And I'm just seeing every position I want to see some positivity from, but I don't want to see too much. So I'm looking forward to seeing, some of the rookies, some of the backups coming in and proving that they can serve as that fill-in if one of the starters do get hurt. I'm looking forward to see Jameis playing, like I mentioned, Jake Haener. I've been in Fresno State. I've been mentioning him a lot. So it'd be nice to see if he actually comes in and does something well for the Saints. So this whole team, I feel like on paper, I have been talking with so many people. I feel like the Saints just on paper have what it takes to win a division and could possibly make a strong playoff push. And, people can laugh when they say maybe like a first year team, like the Saints, who have had so many new people come in, can make a strong playoff push, but the NFC is wide open. So aside from the Eagles or the 49ers, I think this conference is wide open. So I think the Saints could lock up maybe the third or the fourth spot in the NFC. So it'll be very interesting to see, how this season pans out if they stay healthy. Once Kamara comes back, is he going to be explosive as he was? He did not have a great season last year. It took him forever to score a touchdown, like his first or second touchdown for the season. So hopefully he's explosive when he comes in. Looking forward to see if Derek Carr can play good football. I know he wasn't the greatest in Las Vegas, but even when he had a great receiver like Devontae Adams, he's playing with guys like Michael Thomas. He's playing with guys like Chris Olave. Chris Olave is someone who served as one of the main starters as a rookie. So Chris Olave, hopefully he don't have that sophomore slump that some rookies have. Looking forward to seeing it, man. I just think that this team has a lot, what it takes to just do good things this year. But you got to stay healthy. And yes, Michael Thomas being healthy would be huge for the Saints offense. And I say that every year. But Michael Thomas is someone who's wishy-washy when it comes to the injuries, but he's given me hope during training camp. He's given me a ton of hope. So I'm hoping that hope doesn't fall apart as the season starts. He always seems healthy, but it just falls apart. And just hoping that things go well for the Saints team. I know that possibility of adding Kareem Hunt, Anthony Barr would be huge for the Saints team, who is already pretty dynamic on offense. And hoping special teams. Special teams is another one I want to highlight. Will Lutz did not have the greatest year after being such a top kicker for the Saints, year after year. Last year was kind of a slump for him as well. Ready to see, if Blake Killigan can keep going as a great punter who filled in for Thomas Morstead, who's with the Jets now. So this team has what it takes on all sides of the field to be great. So just looking forward to seeing how week 1 goes against the Chiefs. When I come back on next Monday, I'll kind of analyze what I saw in the first preseason game versus Kansas City. I'm not expecting a ton. I know that Dennis Allen said about the starters, but I mean, really and truly, I don't know. I really don't know if we are going to play much starters. If they do play, I'm hoping maybe just a series, because the Saints would be the team to play the starters too long and the injuries start building up. And that's something we need to avoid going into week 1 against Tennessee. Because Tennessee, I'm Derrick Henry. But I will be bringing someone on for the Tennessee game to kind of analyze that game with me. So, but that's all I got for today's debut episode of the Dome Field Advantage podcast. First of all, once again, before I head out, to everyone in the chats that came support the show, to everyone that's going to be watching the replay, and everyone that's going to be giving their thoughts, comments, everything after the show is over, I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. This is such a fantastic experience. I've been podcasting for nearly 3 years, and this is the first time today that I am doing a show on my own. For my wrestling show, I've never done a show by myself. I always had somebody with me, and this is fantastic. This was such a fun time, and the fact that this is just day 1, and I get to do this once a week for preseason, and then the regular season comes, I'll be doing it twice a week, except for week 1. Week 1, I'll only do Wednesday at 6:00 because I have nothing to recap on that Monday. So looking forward to sharing more with all of you, and of course doing some recaps, some preview shows, and hopefully the Saints have a good year, because the more they win, the happier I'll be, and we'll all be good from there. So once again, thank you, everybody. This was just a fantastic time. And before I get out of here, first I want to share the Twitter. First, you can find my personal account at Dylan Hebert _. I'm also on Instagram at Dylan Hebert. Follow the Bloodline Entertainment Network everywhere. We are absolutely everywhere. You can catch us here on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter at the Bloodline ENT. Same handle for Instagram. We're on Twitch. We're on Kick. Catch us everywhere. We're on every social media platform. This network is only getting bigger, and the fact that I just have an opportunity to be a part of this, absolutely amazing. So whenever I've been here, as long as I've been here, I have nothing but great things to say about everybody here. So just awesome. I'm absolutely speechless when it comes to the amount of support that I get, whether it's the show, whether it's the graphics I make for people, whether it's logos, whatever. It just feels all great to see the support that I've been getting going forward. So I will see everybody next Monday, same time, same place, 6:00 Central Time, to analyze some of the week 1 matchup against Kansas City. See some of the rookies that I'm hoping that I'm able to see some action out of, maybe a few starters. Like I said, I hope I don't see too much out of the starters. Want to avoid some injuries, and I know what I'm getting out of the starters already. I've seen that year after year. I don't need to see too much. And of course, on the Bloodline Entertainment Network, you can catch Roto Slappers going on at 9:00 Eastern, 8:00 Central Time. TK and Streets are going to be talking, I think, some wide receivers they're going to be doing. So check that out. It's going to be a fantastic show. Always support the network. Whatever show is going on, whatever day it is. Every single day of the week has something new going on for this network. So always be sure to support the network, whatever they do, because they're always putting out quality stuff, whether it's wrestling, whether it's football, baseball, whether it's movies, or just anything in general. They're always putting out quality stuff. So be on the lookout next week for some week one recap. Love the support I've been given. I can't wait to be back here next week. But until then, guys, like I said, support Roto Slappers next, going on soon after me. And I'll see you all next week. Y'all have a great day.